Rog, you know we were talking the other night about Panther and Orchard and your business and your views about how to grow a business. I kind of asked you a couple of questions. Probably should have taped it last night. What was it we were talking about? We were talking about how you grow a business or how you maintain. What was the couple of things? I forget now.
How you grow, how you maintain, how you develop.
And you kind of came up with some really good stuff. So what's your top tips for developing maybe your existing or maybe new client base?
I think what we're saying is that you're in stationery and I'm in packaging, and there's a lot of synergy between those two types of businesses and how they operate and how they trade. And they're a repeat business. It's a product that people buy, reuse, or use and buy, and there's a lot of repeat business in it. Yes, there's a one-off orders, but there's a lot of repeat business in it. So my take on this is that most people are creatures of habit, whatever they do, whether it's a salesman or a purchasing person, are all creatures of habit, and therefore we need to get into the habit of getting them into the habit. So you get day one you open number one customer, and day two you open number two customer, but you still want number one customer to keep buying. Now you roll that on by 2 or 3 years and you're talking hundreds of customers, and you're not opening hundreds of customers, but you want to keep that main body buying most of the time. So it's about how you engage with those. And I'm a firm believer in people, and I'm a firm believer in engaging with people on a one-to-one personal level. So you would open an account and you start trading with them, and then you keep ringing them and being in touch with them. But also, if you've engaged with somebody once to try and get the business and they've said no, and you've understood why the answer is no, which invariably is we're happy with our current supplier, then you respect that and you say, well, that's great, because that's the type of customer we'd like to have, that's the type of business we would want, so I respect that answer. Would it be okay if I contact you again in a week or a month or a year or whatever it is, whatever comes out of your conversation? But that you don't just put it out of your mind that they're not buying, that you actually then start to churn them. And you also might get people that say, oh, we go out to tender every year or whatever. In those instances, I would tend to try and contact them well before they go out to tender, just so you start to get into them as a person.
So you have a system or a process or a diary management tool to remind you to make contact with that prospect?
We have CRM contact tool at work.
See, I reckon that we're pretty good at generating a new customer. I might be being a bit boastful or a bit ahead of myself here, but what I do think that we're not very good at is, certainly in the stationery business, of not looking after that customer enough. And I think that, incoming calls, we process the order, we give a good price, we invariably check to make sure the order was all there, were they happy with it. Occasionally we'll say, we've got a special offer, do you want fries with that, can we upsell? But we do lose some customers because we probably don't cuddle them enough. We don't go out of our way to love them enough. And secondly, the ones where we've made the first point of contact and they've said, no, thanks, but no thanks, we probably don't go back often enough to say, can we now do what you're suggesting? Can we now quote again? So from a philosophy point of view, what's your view about how you spend your time going back to the well and asking again and again and again? How do you go about loving your existing customers?
When you say how do you spend your time, I'm looking at it from a business management point of view. So I wouldn't want my expensive field sales resource spending time going back to what you could classify as a dead opportunity.
Right.
You want them hunting and hunting new opportunities.
So in terms of the funnel, they're putting the lead in the top of the funnel. They're going to try and close or get a quick win. If not, it then goes back to, let's say, the telesales or the customer service team, and they are operating a regular methodology of going back to those people, putting themselves in front of them and saying, can we now start to work with you? We've got a special offer on, can we quote you?
You can. I think you're very clinical in terms of the sales pattern associated with that, and I come from a slightly different approach, which I think is about relating to the person. If Betty's been buying stationery there for 20 years and she's happy with...
Yeah, because last night you were saying about the people side of it. That's the thing that I've forgotten. It's a shame I didn't get it last night when you said it, because you said it's really, really important that we build a bond. Because you were talking about people buying from people, and you were talking about spending enough time on the phone so that we get to know who that person is. And I don't think we do. I don't think internally we do enough of that.
We were talking about selling and sales and things, and from my experience of interviewing people, I often ask a question, which is, what do you think is the most important thing about the sales process? And invariably get the answer, well, to tell them about our company and tell them about our special offers, and ask questions about their business, which of course are all absolutely brilliant things to try and do, understand, etc. But there's one thing from my experience, and I'm not saying that's the experience, but from my experience, that is absolutely critical before any of that happens, that if you did this and didn't do any of the rest, you'd have a far better chance of closing business, which is actually to relate to the person. And relating to the person is not about your special offer. If they work for a business, it's not necessarily about, if they're not a business owner, it may just be a job to them. It's about them as a person, and actually genuinely relating to them as a person, not because you know it's part of your sales process and therefore say, and what football team do you support and where do you go shopping or whatever, but actually it's a genuine
so what you're saying is that people actually kind of pick up if you're being false or if you're trying to build a bond.
It's like on the phone, if you try and do something that's not true on the phone, even though people can't see you, they pick it up.
They feel it, can't
It's
they?
even more face to face.
Yeah.
So it's about being genuine and getting a genuine relationship with that person, because if you get that genuine relationship, even if they don't buy from you, you have a connection that you can always relate back to.
Because when I look at our numbers, we have a traditional leaky bucket, and I don't know if it's better or worse than other people in our business, in our sectors, but I think we're reasonably good at getting new clients. But I do know we get a lot of stuff that falls out the bottom. Have you got any advice, any tips? Specifically, I'm not saying that packaging is directly the same as stationery or recruitment, the businesses I've got experience of, but there are similarities that you're dealing with people and you've got a potentially regular requirement for that service.
I think you have to accept that things will drop out of the bottom, because that's the way it is, and if it happens to be a huge client that drops out of the bottom, that's really bad news. But it's in client terms, it's one client, or it could be lots of small ones, but whatever. There's going to be businesses that go bust, people that leave, people that die, people that get bought out by others. But the converse of that, the upside to that, is that always presents opportunity. So it's very dangerous to have a list of, I always used to call it the dead list. You churn your dead list. It's very dangerous just to assume that because you've called on them once, that the circumstances remain. We're creatures of habit, aren't we? You get a no, and you don't want to go near it again.
Yeah.
And actually, there's 101 reasons why somebody might not buy from you. And it might be because they're really happy with the current supplier, but the current supplier might go bust, or the guy might die, or the guy might move on, or the guy might get bought out. Likewise, the customer might. There's all sorts of reasons why it will be different. It could be different next time.
I read a thing last night where they're talking about a guy who used to go in and used to cold call face to face, and he kept going back to a customer every single month at 9 o'clock in the morning. And one time, because his schedule changed, he went back in the afternoon. And after 2 years, he went back one time in the afternoon, and the customer bought from him, and he asked him, why this time? And he said, well, it's because whenever you've seen me before, I've got no energy in the morning because I'm diabetic and it takes me a couple of hours to get going. He said, but now you've come to see me in the afternoon, and actually I'm in a different place, I've got more energy levels, and I'm prepared to talk to you about it. And the guy was completely blown away because he thought it was all about him. His service was bad, he was too expensive, but actually it was just the fact that the prospective client couldn't function before midday. I don't know if it's a true story, but I kind of like the fact that...
Well, it reminds me of a guy I used to... when I used to work in the office furniture industry, and this guy actually was a stationer, and he was a nice guy, and I didn't have a massive customer, I just liked him, but he was kind of a bit of a maverick type fella. But he used to tell me this tale that when he was setting up his stationery business, he used to call on this business, and the receptionist said that the buyer would never see him, and so he kept trying, kept going back after a month, And it became, over a period of months, he used to just walk into the receptionist, just poke his head around and said, "Is he dead yet?" And the receptionist said no, laughed, and he went away. And he said it went on for about 7 or 8 years, and this one day he poked his head in and he said, "Is he dead yet?" And she said, "Yeah, actually he is."
No!
and he actually got in there and got the business, bizarrely.
I like that, yeah, I like that. That's something you can put in your book when you finally get round to writing.
There's another story as well, which this was actually my own experience, where there was a large customer that I called on and tried to follow my own principle for once, and actually started to talk to, found out who the buyer was and talked to her, went to meet her and stuff, and they were in contracts and they were happy. I said, "Well, can I call you in 3 months?" And I religiously called 3 months for about 2.5 years before the time was right. And when the time was right, within another 3 months we got quite a lot of business out of it, and they traded for about another 3 or 4 years after that, until their business changed again and the churn happened, or I can't remember what, but we delivered value overall.
The battery's about to run out, so I'm a bit mindful. If it cuts off, we'll just carry on again. But so some basic system, whether it be a proper CRM system or just a reminder or an Excel thing,
just a diary.
A diary, yeah, an old-fashioned diary. What did we do before computers? We had a diary. When I was selling houses years ago, we had a 1-31 system. You went and valued a house, you didn't get it on, well then you went back and you called that vendor on the 15th of every month to say, "Are you ready to put it on?" Or they put it on with another agent. Well, how's it going? Da da da. So there's always a system. Calling back on a regular basis, making it about the customer or the prospect. Being yourself. Though that was the other thing, wasn't it? About being you. You were talking about last night. The other thing which I thought was great.
Being real.
Being real. The other thing which I hope we can get, if not we'll get it on another recording, is you were saying about understanding that there's a value of that customer over a period of time. So it's not just one order. It was about putting something together. Do you remember that story when you said putting something together to get a customer's attention?
That was actually when I think it was a story where I was saying when we'd let somebody down, and
that's it.
We got an opportunity to supply them, and the supplier required a sample, and we did the sample, and the sample was wrong. But then we did another sample, and it was correct, and then we got an order, but the order was wrong. And it was just one of those bloody nightmare things where whatever you touch, it was not going to work. And we ended up just. They kind of said, "Don't darken our door again," and I thought, there is business in here. I know there's business in here, and it was pure fluke circumstances why I won't go into the detail, but it just hadn't gone right for all sorts of reasons. So what I said to my sales guy was, "Look, get an order made up." It was hugely expensive. It cost about 50 or 60 quid. I said, "Get it made up and give it to them. Just go around there and say, look, this is the product. I'd love it to open the door for me again, but if it's just an apology, there you go. I just wanted to prove to you we can do it and it can work." It was postal tubes or something as stupid as that. I can't remember what it was. And sure enough,